Onaga is my favorite Mortal Kombat villain, and with the release of Mortal Kombat 1, I think there's a good chance he'll finally be returning to the franchise for Mortal Kombat 13. I have a lot of reasons why I think this could be the case, but before I get to those reasons, let's review who Onaga is for those of you who don't know. We're going to go through all major appearances of Onaga in the lore of Timeline 1.0, which spans 1992's Mortal Kombat through Armageddon, Timeline 2.0, which spans MK9 through MK11, and Timeline 3.0, which starts with Mortal Kombat 1. This isn't an iceberg, so I'll only be focused on the things that actively impact the lore of the video games. With all of that established, let's dive right in. Onaga's story starts in Outworld long before Shao becomes Khan. In fact, Shao is a weakling in comparison to Onaga, serving him in much the same way Raiko or Shang Tsung would later serve Shao himself. It is only through treachery Shao was able to usurp Onaga, who by this time had conquered all of Outworld with his army of unkillable soldiers. Killing Onaga with poison, Shao takes the throne of Outworld. When he does so, he likely caused some strife in the rank and file of the land, but being a general in Onaga's army, he likely got his skills in conquering and his title of Conqueror from this era of MK history. Once that was finished, Shao would begin engaging in Mortal Kombat, adding Viternus, Zertera, Edenia, and countless other realms to Outworld, with some like Saito, the Realm of Order, being able to resist his power. Onaga's story rests with his death for several thousands of years, but Onaga himself does not rest. In Mortal Kombat lore, it's a little ambiguous where the souls of the deceased go. The Netherrealm can collect souls, sentencing those sorry spirits to suffering. In Outworld, the only mention of where souls go is through soul magic, something Shao is a master of. Yet for some reason, Shao doesn't absorb Onaga's soul, and instead, Onaga exerts his influence from beyond death's strangling embrace. My theory is that Shao was too scared to try and absorb Onaga's soul. As we see in current endings throughout the games, if someone absorbs a soul that is too powerful for them, the cost is deadly for the would-be absorber, usually resulting in their utter destruction. Shao likely didn't absorb Onaga's soul for this reason, demonstrating the power of the Dragon King. Interred alongside the mummified remains of his army, now inert without his power to maintain them, Onaga connived from death, contriving the means by which to orchestrate his return. It takes time, a long time, before he can finally make his play, and many pieces had to fall into just the right place in order to facilitate his return. Before the Mortal Kombat tournament of the first game, Onaga reaches out with his spirit towards Shujinko, a young child in an Earthrealm town. He was in his teens at the time, training under Bo Raicho, the future teacher of Liu Kang. Shujinko is an average disciple, yet he aspires to fight Shang Tsung and Goro. He and his friends play out that event, imagining what it would be like to save Earthrealm from Shao Kahn.
Earthrealm from your tyranny.
Is that so? Then it seems I will need a stronger opponent to defeat the great Kung Lao. Goro, fight!
One day, Shujinko is stopped by the glowing light of Damashi, the disguised deceit of Onaga. Damashi prompts Shujinko to gather the Kamidogu, special objects that essentially function as the totem of each realm. Each Kamidogu is a piece of the One Being, whom the Elder Gods defeated before time began. When Shujinko tries to leave, however, he is unable to. Bo Raicho won't let him leave the city limits without knowing for a fact that he has the skills to defend himself, which to be quite frank is a Chad move. Good on Bo Raicho for not letting a child traipse around the world unprepared. Dejected, Shujinko tells Damashi of this, and Damashi gifts him the power to copy the fighting abilities and proficiency of any fighter he comes across.
But Master Bo Raicho will not let me outside the walls of the town.
Not to worry, Shujinko. I will bestow upon you a great power, the ability to absorb the fighting skills from any fighter you encounter. This will give you the edge you will need on your quest.
And with this power, Shujinko copies Bo Raicho's fighting ability, impressing him so much, Bo Raicho takes him in as his personal student. It takes 5 years, but in that time, Shujinko becomes a powerful fighter. Now this video is not about Shujinko, so we're going to fast forward a couple decades through his life. By the time the first Mortal Kombat game begins, he has 4 of the 6 Kamidogu, but Onaga sends him away, even though he proves he has the ability to easily defeat Shang Tsung, impressing even Raiden.
Quite adept at many fighting styles. Who are you? What is this contest you speak of?
I am Shang Tsung. My Mortal Kombat tournament will begin soon on my island fortress. Only the best will be allowed to enter.
Shang Tsung? Long have I heard tales of your foul deeds. I am Shujinko. Since I was a boy, I have dreamed of winning the Mortal Kombat tournament and ridding Earthrealm of your tyranny.
Is that so? Then it seems I will have to test the great Shujinko. You are most welcome to compete, but only if you can prove that you are worthy of such an honor. Fight! Most impressive, Shujinko. You are indeed worthy to compete in the Mortal Kombat tournament. I will enjoy consuming your soul when you lose.
I do not think so. It has been my greatest desire to win Earthrealm's freedom from you and your master, Shao Kahn.
You seem to possess much strength and skill, Shujinko. Forgive me for doubting you, but if the Elder Gods have indeed unleashed their champion, they must be concerned that the end of the realms is near. Your presence might be connected with the Mortal Kombat tournament here in Earthrealm. Have you come to aid us?
Since Onaga had convinced Shujinko he was the champion for the Elder Gods, he acquiesced, giving up his dream of beating Shang Tsung and Goro, instead going to the Netherrealm to make his soul impure.
For now, you must fulfill your destiny.
I will do as you ask.
While Shujinko was wasting away in hell, the events of MK1, 2, 3, and 4 happened, with Onaga patiently waiting in the shadows through all of that time. In between Mortal Kombat 4 and Deadly Alliance, he begins to exert his influence over others, strategically moving all of the pieces into place to bring about his return. Shujinko was already in his pocket, currently assisting Scorpion in his pursuit of Quan Chi.
Shadow, who has sent you?
I sent him. Scorpion! You thought you could elude me here? In the lower reaches of the Netherrealm, my strength increases while yours fades. I will make you suffer for killing my family and clan. There is nowhere you can run, sorcerer. I will have my revenge!
Scorpion would chase Quan Chi to a hidden portal of Onaga's which connected the hidden remains of his army to the Netherrealm. With that army discovered, Quan Chi would combine forces with Shang Tsung, creating the Deadly Alliance. All of his machinations were coming to fruition. Reptile, Nitara, and Cyrax were the next 3 Onaga needed to manipulate. Deep in the lava-flooded ruins of one of his throne rooms, a dragon egg resided, and inside that egg was the soul of Onaga. Nitara and Cyrax being down there was merely bait for the real prize, Reptile.
Despite the strong sulfurous stench that filled the chamber, Reptile could smell that Nitara and Cyrax had been there recently. There was no sign of them now, except for some scattered glass shards and a residual trace of strong magical energies. His revenge would have to wait. Suddenly, an expectant hush filled the chamber as energy cascaded around what appeared to be a dragon embryo. The tiny dragon stretched and the egg cracked. A beam of energy ripped out from inside and lanced into Reptile. His world was filled with a roaring power as his squamous body was twisted and transformed. The ancient prophecy had been fulfilled. The Dragon King had returned.
Once Reptile was struck by the magic from the egg, his body began to shift and contort, forming the figure of Onaga's new body. With this new body forming, it was going to take some time before he was ready to reveal himself, and he still needed the Kamidogu collected. There was a problem, however, because Shujinko had gotten himself stuck in a Saido prison. Contriving his escape through the mercenary Dairu, Onaga once again set Shujinko back on his quest, where he would collect the last 2 Kamidogu quickly. Bringing all of the Kamidogu to the Nexus, Shujinko completed his quest, and it was at this time that Onaga reveals his treachery.
I do not understand. The Kamidogu should have been transported to the Elder Gods. Why is it not happening?
Because you have not completely finished the quest.
What are you?
Ah, yes. Familiar words. Perhaps this will help you to understand.
Damashi! What has he done to you? Let him go!
Shujinko, please save me.
Oh, fool! Damashi does not exist. The avatar you see before you is merely a projection of my consciousness. I manipulated this astral puppet from beyond the boundaries of death, and in turn, manipulated you. I deceived you into bringing me the means of attaining ultimate mastery over reality.
So it seems that I have indeed known you all these years. Then by what name shall I call you now? Tell me who you really are, demon.
I am Onaga, the Dragon King of Outworld and soon-to-be ruler of all that exists. I must thank you for bringing me so much power. The Kamidogu are mine.
You may have them. They do nothing. You have wasted your time. Nothing happened when I placed them all on the altar.
Not all. If you had found the last piece, the altar would have transported them to the Elder Gods. But the last piece is currently in Outworld in the possession of a fool sorcerer. I will deal with him later. For now, I will take these artifacts you have so dutifully collected for me. I am afraid they will not make it into the hands of the Elder Gods after all. And so, Shujinko, your quest is done. Prepare for death.
With all the Kamidogu gathered, all he needs now is Shinnok's amulet, which happens to be in the possession of a certain sorcerer.
Outworld. And that ruler had returned. Onaga, former Emperor of Outworld, the Dragon King. The prophecy had been fulfilled. The Dragon King had indeed returned to Outworld to reclaim his army and impose his dominance. Death awaited all who stood in his way. And so it was that a new alliance was formed out of desperation. Sworn enemies joined forces to combat a greater threat. Raiden began to realize that even their combined might was not enough to defeat the Dragon King. There was only one chance left. Raiden's sacrifice was in vain, for the blast had little effect on the Dragon King. Now Onaga has what he needs to shape the realms as he sees fit.
With all of the tools at his disposal, Onaga needed only time to complete his final goal, which we're able to see in this unfinished ending.
I used this ultimate weapon to warp reality, merging the realms into a singular existence. The Elder Gods were helpless as I used their own power against them, in the void beyond the One Realm. Not satisfied with merely ruling the One Realm, I seized all that exists and merged it into myself. There can be only one consciousness. I am everything. I have become the One Being.
That's obviously not what happens, with instead Shujinko's and Raiden's endings being the one to finish out the Deception storyline.
Onaga had given me the power to absorb the fighting ability of any warrior I encountered, but his gift would prove to be his undoing. The warriors in Outworld were in disarray, Heroes were not focused on the true threat of Onaga, and villains were unaware that they were bringing about their own destruction by serving him. I united them, and in one moment absorbed their combined fighting power. I shattered each of the Kamidogu, the source of his invulnerability. This weakened Onaga, and I attacked him without mercy. His mortal form was no match for a combatant infused with the powers of so many warriors. The Dragon King was finally defeated. The realms will remain as they have since the beginning.
My patience for mortals has worn thin. If I am to protect Earthrealm, I must punish those who would threaten it. The fool Shujinko had let himself be deceived into believing that he worked for a greater good. He was in fact an unknowing tool of a greater evil, one that had almost caused the destruction of Earthrealm. That Shujinko undid his mistake and destroyed the Dragon King is of no importance. Those who place Earthrealm in harm's way will pay with their lives.
It's at this point in the original timeline where Onaga's story gets odd, and this is because of Midway's money troubles. Canonically, Onaga is killed by Shujinko, and Raiden kills Shujinko. It's a real tragedy that leaves no loose ends. This ending is clean, focused, concise, and thematically consistent. However, the quote-unquote final Mortal Kombat game would be Armageddon. Billed as the last Mortal Kombat game in the marketing material, Armageddon was bound to happen. Midway needed that final paycheck to get them over the finish line as they began to sell everything off and be completely bankrupt. To be fair, Armageddon's story was being built up since Deadly Alliance as well, but I don't think Onaga was supposed to be in it in the first draft of its story. With Midway's doors closing, Boone and the team thought to make MKA the swan song for the franchise, putting all of the MK characters up till that point onto the roster. This creates some continuity problems, but for Onaga's place in the lore, only two things matter, other than him being alive when he shouldn't be anyway.
About them! I have trapped one of them in Earthrealm. The other is in Edenia. We must go there now. Our allies are waiting. To war!
Alliances will be broken.
Somehow, Shao Kahn survives this, escapes or kills Onaga, and defeats Blaze atop the pyramid. This event jumpstarts the Timeline 2.0 of MK lore, where Onaga doesn't do much. There's only two pieces of evidence Onaga was doing anything within this section of the timeline, with those two things being cameos in endings within MKX and MK11.
Cassie did not have to be told that the suspect could be a resurrected Shang Tsung. Having tracked him from the site of his last known assault, Cassie confronted the withered old man. He fought desperately but was ultimately defeated. As the old man lay dying before her, Cassie asked his name. With a mixture of sadness and relief, he whispered, Shujinko.
Until, inevitably, a more powerful enemy comes along and finds Earthrealm backed by Kung Lao, immortal lord of time and warrior supreme.
There's not much to this except that it shows Onaga's machinations were going on in the background of MK9 and MKX, but the time frame for those manipulations makes no sense, especially since Onaga shouldn't have his body in the MK3 ending since Reptile didn't fuse with the Dragon Age. I think there's a good chance that NRS was planning to return to the Onaga plot with MK11 at some point, but they got cold feet for some reason, eschewing in favor of the Hourglass arc. That brings us to now, Mortal Kombat 1, and it is because of Mortal Kombat 1 I believe Onaga may return in MK13, whenever that comes out. It is at this point in the video that we're going to move away from MK history to my arguments as to why I think Onaga is coming back. Firstly, Mortal Kombat 1 brings back a load of 3D era characters, specifically Deception characters. Darius, Havoc, Shujinko, and Ashra all return from Deception, and Frost, Nitara, and Li Mei return from the 3D era in general. It's been a long time since NRS has shown any reference towards the 3D era, so this shows me an interest on their part to finally retell the stories from that section of the lore. In a lot of ways, Mortal Kombat 1 functions as NRS's Deadly Alliance, even sharing the same final boss. Unfortunately, Mortal Kombat 1 is worse in the lore department than Deadly Alliance, and it also doesn't overtly lead up until the events of Deception within the story mode itself. The Hourglass plot might contradict Onaga's return a little bit in that the existence of the Hourglass would downplay his power, but Garrus's and Liu Kang's endings both imply the end of the Hourglass plotline.
All timelines, keeping watch for potential danger. It pleases me to do this service for the new era. Lord Liu Kang may rest assured that it is secure.
My loyal partner had warned me. Reclaiming my power as Keeper of Time might have unforeseen consequences. In this, as in most things, he proved prescient. The process I had undergone did irreparable harm to my body. Taking back my power had cost me my immortality. While my lifespan would still stretch across eons, I would one day perish. And if the war with Titan Shang Tsung taught me anything, it is that this timeline is not safe without a protector. Yet I had never given thought to choosing a successor. Who is it that could replace me and protect my new era? The answer, of course, is Garrus. Tireless and meticulous, he is perfectly suited to be entrusted with this grave duty. And no one knows better the temptations of the Hourglass. I have no doubt he will be above them.
Now, when Liu Kang rewrote history, he wrote it in such a way so that Shang Tsung, Quan Chi, and Shao Kahn would no longer be as powerful as they were in the original timeline. This is why General Shao is such a pushover, and it is also why Shang Tsung and Quan Chi only became a threat after Titan Shang Tsung manipulated them into providing him with an opportunity of deleting Liu Kang's timeline. However, Liu Kang would not have made Onaga weak because this Liu Kang never interacted with Onaga, and Raiden would never have warned him of Onaga either because the Raiden of MK11 never interacted with him as well. This Liu Kang is the fusion of MKX's Revenant Liu Kang and the Liu Kang from MK2. Neither of these Liu Kangs ever existed within the Deception section of the lore, meaning the Dragon King was little more than a boogeyman for either. Being so focused on Shang Tsung, Quan Chi, and Shao Kahn, it would be easy for Liu Kang to have overlooked Onaga. In the original timeline, endings in Deadly Alliance hinted at the original rise of Onaga, such as Raiden's.
Deadly Alliance is no more. What dangers lie in the future I can no longer foresee. Perhaps the Dragon King will in fact return. Perhaps the depths of the Netherrealm will spew forth a legion of Oni. Even the vampire people pose a threat to peace now that Outworld is in chaos. But one thing is certain. Earthrealm must be protected. I have abandoned my status as Elder God to aid these mortals and act defiant of the heavens. I will instead remain here on Earth as God of Thunder.
Mortal Kombat 1 brings this endings motif back, with Kung Lao's and Raiko's endings hinting at the existence and possible return of Onaga.
Outworld's throne. That they thought Lei Chin prison would hold me is laughable. Once free, I began planning my next campaign. I would need an unstoppable army to overthrow Melina. Unfortunately, most of my former soldiers lacked the courage to rally to my standard. Rebuilding my army would require finding new recruits. And that task is proving easier than expected. Outworld's golden age has left more than a few behind. Without hope, without power, they eagerly heed my call to tear down Melina's government.
General Shao's revolt left Outworld's armies in tatters. We were vulnerable to enemies both foreign and domestic. That's why my sister asked me to take command, to stitch her military back together and purge Shao's loyalists within it. She trusted only me with the task. The soldiers, however, had little faith. They thought me a spoiled dilettante, unprepared and unfit to serve. That I could fight mattered little. All that mattered was that I wasn't one of them. I finally earned their loyalty by orchestrating an epic victory over Shao and his rebels. Though the general himself escaped, his forces were smashed. For as long as I am able, I will lead the Empress's armies in defense of Outworld. Through strength, we will achieve peace.
With General Shao freed from prison, we began raising a new army against the royal family. Though many were eager recruits, few were good at soldiering. It was so bad, the general was forced to change tactics. He decided that we needed a doomsday weapon. That weapon isn't a thing, though. It is a monster. Onaga, the Dragon King. The general told me the old legends were true, that his ancient ancestor defeated Onaga, trapping him deep inside Mount Sagan. The Dragon King is still there today, his pent-up fury waiting to be unleashed. Because Onaga is so dangerous, the general wouldn't risk trying to tame him before. But now, he feels we have no choice.
These three endings show a burgeoning Outworld Civil War subplot, and it also shows Shao freeing Onaga to use as a weapon in that conflict. Yet this is not where Onaga's story in MK1 ends.
It was inevitable that the Shaolin Masters had me join them. They knew just how much future initiates could learn from me. Shujinko was one of my earliest. His ability to absorb anyone's powers and skills was amazing. With the right training, he could become our greatest champion. I knew that I alone could give it to him. But as his proficiency grew, so did his ego. In love with himself and his power, Shujinko became a threat to the realms. He hadn't learned humility, because I wasn't the one who could teach it. I should have listened to Raiden's warning and not tried to train Shujinko alone. After he was subdued, Shujinko's accumulated abilities and memories were taken from him. He is once again a new initiate, ready to begin his training. This time, Raiden and I train Shujinko together. He will become the champion he is destined to be. And I will fulfill my duties, humbly and cooperatively.
Kung Lao's ending doesn't show Onaga, but it shows the other side of the Onaga coin, Shujinko. Think back towards the beginning of this video. Shujinko does not naturally have the power to copy and master the combat abilities of other fighters. That is a power given to him by Onaga, and this ending implies Onaga is up to his old tricks. All of these are promising pieces of evidence, but there are hints in MK11 and MK1 of NRS possibly building up to the recreation of the Conquest mode from Deception. The Crypt from MK11 and the Invasion mode from MK1 show me NRS is working on their adventure gameplay systems and designing chops, something of an absolute necessity if the Conquest mode from MKD were to ever return. This would be a perfect time for NRS to do this type of thing as well, and I do think the Conquest mode a la la MKD would be crazy successful. It is time for Onaga, the best MK villain, to return, and everything in MK1 so far seems to imply him being the next main villain. Do you hope Onaga is the next boss in MK13? Let me know in the comments below, and please like, share, subscribe, and ding that bell for more really good gaming content from your friendly neighborhood Dragon King.
Long live the Dragon King.